So you're new to Genshin, you're doing some 10 pulls on the current banner, and you get the newest 5-star Clorinde. Now, what do you get with Clorinde besides the hardest working button in all of Genshin? Well, Clorinde is a sword-wielding Electro user who, just like Arlecchino, uses the Bond of Life mechanic in her kit, but unlike Arlecchino, uses it in a much different way, kind of. We'll see. So in this video, we are going to look at Clorinde's kit, how she works, what you need to know about her. But first, we're going to look at the current build of the current Clorinde that we're using for this video. Thank you, Doggy, for sending me footage to use for this video. His Clorinde, level 90 out of 90, 19,600 HP, 2,277 attack, EM 44. Her crit split is 65.4 over 276.5 with 109 energy recharge, and he is running an Electro Goblet on Clorinde. For a weapon, a level 90 Absolution, which is her signature. For artifacts, 2-piece Vermilion, 2-piece Shimenawa. I believe he is working on getting her a different artifact set. For constellations, C0. And for talents, 110-9. As you can see, she uses her skill quite a lot. Now, we are going to look at her passives real quick before we get into how her whole kit works. The first passive, after a nearby enemy triggers an electro-related reaction against an opponent, her electro damage dealt by her normal attacks and by part of her skill is increased. Now, one thing to notice, it says by Clorinde's normal attacks. They're not talking about these normal attacks. They're not talking about the normal attacks on her talent. They're talking about what her skill turns into a normal attack. Thank you, Doggy, for also clarifying that. So even though it says normal attacks, it is talking about the normal attacks that you're using after you use her skill. Technically, it is still a normal attack, even though it is not calculated on normal attack damage. Her other passive, if we use her Bond of Life and we make it fluctuate after it's hit 100%, we gain crit rate on Clorinde. So we will be pointing that out whenever we get to her skill and whenever we actually achieve triggering this passive. But just know that Clorinde, Doggy's Clorinde, had 65% crit rate. Once we trigger this, she will have 85% crit rate. Okay, so first we're gonna look at her normal attacks. Her normal attacks are gonna do physical damage. They're pretty standard. She's gonna swing her sword around. She's gonna do some physical damage. Her charge attack, kind of the same thing. She's just going to pull out her pistol in one hand, sword in the other hand, and she's just going to do a little flurry and do physical damage. Nothing too special, which is why when I said earlier about her passive, it doesn't work on this normal attack. It works on a different normal attack. So now we're going to look at her skill. Whenever you use her skill, it is not going to actually do damage. It's not going to like hit an enemy for electro damage. It is going to convert her normal attacks into electro pistol shot damage, as you can see. Now, you might have also noticed that it went through the first enemy and hit the enemies behind them. That is because these shots do pierce. They hit one enemy and continue going through. Now, something else that I'm gonna have to move my mic for. Down here, you can see that she has Bond of Life. This is full Bond of Life. Half of her HP bar is going to be the full Bond of Life. Again, thank you, Doggy, for clarifying that as well. When we do her normal attacks after using her skill, her pistol shots, it is going to give a third Bond of Life where 3 shots are going to give a full Bond of Life. Now, you cannot heal when you have the Bond of Life on you. However, if you hit her E again, she's going to dash forward, dealing elemental electro damage, clearing the Bond of Life, and healing you. Something else. Clorinde has these arrows around her. That is because she now has that passive, giving her the extra crit rate. We got it to 100, cleared it, got it to 100 again, cleared it again. Now her crit split is 85.4 over 276.5. That makes it a little bit easier to run a much more crit damage focused artifact set. So the correct way of doing this is to use her skill, 3 normal attacks, so 3 pistol shots, skill again to clear the Bond of Life, and then heal her as well, and then do 3 more than skill. So you're gonna hit your skill, normal attack times 3, skill. Normal attack times 3, skill. Normal attack times 3, skill, until it runs out or until the duration is up. If you go over 100% Bond of Life, if you go over that halfway point on her HP bar, which again is 100%, she starts to lose damage. And I'll actually point that out whenever we get to the second part of this domain, the second enemies. Next, we're going to talk about her burst though. Her burst is going to do an instance of electro damage hitting for a very wide AoE. That's kind of it. It does give you a full bond of life. So the purpose of the burst is to use her burst to then get an immediate healing upon using her skill. So we would use her burst, we would then activate her skill, and then use the forward thrust first to clear the bond of life and heal, and go ahead and get that crit rate. And then 1, 2, 3 normal attacks, use it again. 1, 2, 3 normal attacks, skill again. So the burst kind of just gets you, it changes your rotation slightly. Instead of using skill, normal attack, skill, normal attack, skill, normal attack, it's burst, skill, skill, normal attack, skill, normal attack, skill. That's the way that it works because we want to get that initial crit rate buff. We want to get the healing. It's much easier to use. Think of her burst as kind of like Arlecchino, where Arlecchino's burst healed her. This is giving an extra instance of a heal, or an extra chance to heal before you start getting into her normal attacks with the Electro Infusion. So we kind of want to just weave that in, right? We're not looking at it as a massive point of anything. We're mainly looking at it as an extra instance to heal. Now, if you have a full stack of Bond of Life and then you use her burst, it will fill up the whole HP bar. And I'm actually gonna have to kind of step out of the way again. If her whole HP bar is covered by the Bond of Life, you are at 200% and you are actually going to be losing damage. So if we make Clorinde have that 200% Bond of Life, like you can see here, whenever she uses her skill and she hits the enemy with the normal attacks, we are doing 2,000 damage, 2,900, like 3,000. Once we clear and we start going back up, now you see we're hitting 5,600. So if you go over that halfway point on the HP bar, you will be doing less damage. So you don't want to go over. You don't want to use her burst when you already have Bond of Life. You want to wait until it's completely drained, then use her burst so that way you can start with the healing process. And as you can see this whole time, this HP bar has been fluctuating up and down this entire time that we have been in this domain, from not being able to heal with Bond of Life to healing with her skill, to then dropping and get back down to healing with her skill. You can see that we're just constantly fluctuating. For an artifact set, we are going to look at an early game and beginner set, and I'm going to say 4-piece instructor. Instructor set is going to be very, very good because you can run an aggravate team even early on if you have Clorinde. And that is going to be the earliest team to run, especially early on, is going to be aggravate, because you can just do it with Electro and Dendro, and then an Anemo character, or double Dendro, double Electro. You have a fair good amount of wiggle room as far as what characters are going to take up the team. So 4-piece instructor set, going to get up her EM, which you want in an aggravate team. It's also going to get up the EM of your other characters upon triggering a reaction, which will help them as well. For main stats, attack percent, Electro Goblet, crit rate or crit damage. She is a pretty basic character to build whenever it comes to main stat on artifacts. For weapons, you do have both Battle Pass swords as a good option. You have Wolf's Fang, which is going to get up your crit rate, as well as your elemental skill damage, which can be very, very good. And you have Black Sword, which is also going to get up your crit rate, but it's going to increase the normal attack damage. And because, like we were showing earlier, once you use her skill, followed up by 3 normal attacks, it will increase the damage of those normal attacks, or at least it should. If you are looking for something that is not Battle Pass friendly, if you are looking for a sword that is not on the Battle Pass, you do of course have the Fontaine craftable weapon, which is going to be very, very good for her as well. You always have 3-star Harbinger of Dawn if you have a way of protecting her and keeping her HP above 90%. Much, much harder with this because you can't heal her, but if you just run a shielder like Toma in a Chevy Overload team, or Kirara in an Aggravate team, then you should be able to keep her HP above the 90%. Now, we're not going to talk too much about teams in this video. We're going to save that for the Artifact Grinding Hell video, because Clorinde is really only viable in a few teams. That's going to be an Aggravate, a Quick Bloom, or an Overloaded specifically with Chevy. You have to have Chevy in that team for it to work. Now, because of that, we're going to do a much more deeper dive into those 3 teams and why they work or how they work in the next video, not in this one. But I did just want to mention the 3 kinds of teams that she can work in case you're trying to build one and you can't wait one more day for the video to come out tomorrow. That is going to be it for this video. If you have any questions, do be sure to leave it down in the comments. Myself or somebody else will be sure to answer it, and I'll see you in the next one.